Hey, what's going on, everybody? I hope you guys are having a good day. I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from the Black Business School, and I wanted to talk to you guys about what's going on in the stock market today. Today is May 30th, 2019, so you may be watching this video after May 30th. But as you guys know, usually when I talk about the market, because I'm a teacher at heart, a finance professor, there's usually an educational component that lasts forever. So even if we're just talking about what happened in the market today, I put it in the broader context so we can all understand it a little bit better. I want to I remind you to hit the thumbs up button, and also feel free to join us at the Black Business School, where we talk about investing in money and building wealth every day, as we've been doing for many years. So you're always welcome to join us in the conversation. We believe in building Black wealth, Black-owned businesses, resurrecting Black Wall Street. In fact, we have a film out actually called Resurrecting Black Wall Street, which was produced by Boyce Watkins Films. You can feel free to go check it out when you get a chance. Okay, so here's the deal. Here's what's going on in the market. If you're an investor, throw your hands up. Let's say a little prayer for everybody who doesn't believe in investing, because they're missing out on all the wealth that's being built in America. But if you are an investor, let me know how your portfolio is doing today. Today, on this particular day, you probably saw a little bit of a jump in your stock prices. But you've probably been hit pretty hard the last week or two. And part of what's going on is there's a massive trade war, a trade dispute between the United States and China, and it's really getting ugly. The next frontier of this trade war is expected to be rare earth metals. When it comes to rare earth metals, the Chinese are big suppliers to the United States, and basically after Trump went after Huawei, I think that's how you pronounce it, to basically shut down what they're able to do. That's a huge company in China. The Chinese got pretty upset, and they pretty much threatened retaliation. And every time there's either an action or there's a threat for an action, you're usually seeing a decline in stock prices, which is just bad for everybody who invests. Now, what is happening, though, is that the market's showing a little bit of resilience. It's not dropping as far as it could, or maybe it should, based on what's been going on so far. And a lot of it is driven by what they call the Trump put. The Trump put is basically, if you're familiar with stock options, those of you who are in my investing class kind of know these sorts of things. The put option is basically the option, or basically it's an asset that you can buy that goes up in value when prices go down. So that's all I'll say about it right now. So basically, there are people that believe that there's a put option on the Trump presidency, in the sense that the lower the stock market goes, the greater the likelihood that President Trump is going to throw in the towel with China and not push this thing too far. Trump is obsessed with the stock market for a couple of reasons. One, the performance of the market has been one of his bragging points. He's been able to constantly say, "Oh, look, the market's taken off since I've been elected, and it's far better than what it was under Obama." So he's able to say these sorts of things and brag about economic data and low unemployment, low Black unemployment. Well, if he wrecks the economy, then he's losing his bragging rights. And anything about Donald Trump, he's a guy who likes to brag. He's a little bit arrogant, right? A lot of us feel that way. And so a lot of people feel like, hey, this guy isn't going to let it get too far out of hand. The second thing is, and this is something I've always mentioned to you guys before, is Trump is a guy who's really self-interested. He's kind of some would even say he's a narcissist. I don't know, but I'm going to say that based on what I've seen, I wouldn't be surprised if that was the correct diagnosis. And given that he's so self-interested, I look at, what is it that he's doing with his own money? And Trump is heavily invested in the stock market. So every time the market drops, by half a percentage point, like if you're upset because you lost $500 that day, he might have lost $500,000 that day, right? So I don't see Donald Trump as a guy who wants to get his butt kicked, when it comes to his own investments. So I personally believe Trump. I'm in agreement with this, that Trump is probably not going to let this fight go on too far. But then again, though, you never know, because the thing was that the trade war was kind of necessary. Even though it's peace is, it's more, there's more tranquility and security when you have peace. But sometimes peace under the weight of an oppressive or imbalanced situation, or an unfair situation, is not better than war, right? So even though the trade war is a little uncomfortable, there are a lot of experts who felt that China needed to be confronted about, currency manipulation and theft of intellectual property, the massive trade imbalance that's been established with China. I don't know if that's good for the United States. I don't know. But anyway, reading on CNN Money, they're mentioning that even though the market's taken a dip, and when the market dips, we tend to believe stocks are cheap. Like people say, oh, stocks are cheap now, but the thing is, everything's relative. So the reason you think stocks are cheap now is because they're cheaper than they were yesterday. But actually, when you look at other metrics of, whether or not, stocks are overpriced, you look at, say, things like price earnings ratios and book to market ratios. Actually, stocks are really expensive. Stocks could drop another 10% and plummet. I mean, 10% drop in the market or a 5% drop would be astronomical. It would be mind blowing. Like every news outlet in the world would be talking about it. But even then, stocks would still be overpriced. It's like if I take a pair of jeans that are worth $80 and let's say they're designer jeans, and I jack the price up to $400, and then I drop the price from 400 to 350. You say, oh my God, they're only 350. What a deal, what a bargain. When actually the true value of the jeans might only be $80, right? So the market, even in the midst of these declines, this has been a very good stock market. If you've been invested for a few years, you probably made a lot of money. In fact, most of you, if you put the amount of money you spend on fast food or money you spend going to the movies or going to the Beyonce concerts or whatever it is that we spend our money on, if you put that same amount in the stock market, even no matter which stocks you bought, just randomly bought stocks, you would probably have your money would have maybe doubled or tripled by now. Like you would have seen astronomical growth in your investments. So anyway, moving on, hit the thumbs up button. Please make sure you subscribe. I'm going to read more. They said Wall Street is betting that if the market plunges far enough, the White House will throw in the towel and find a way to make trade peace with China rather than risk losing in 2020. And then they said it's a new spin on what is called the Fed put, the term coined for a trading strategy based on the belief that the Federal Reserve will come to the rescue of markets and the economy by lowering interest rates. So the Fed put is basically something where banks were incentivized. They're still incentivized to take a lot of risks because basically they know that if something goes wrong, the Federal Reserve is going to bail them out. That's why a lot of experts had a big problem when the government bailed out Wall Street back in 2008, 2009, because they said, well, you're not giving them an incentive to play it safe anymore, because now you're letting them know that if they screw up and they make a mistake, the market isn't going to punish them. You're not going to let them just go bankrupt like they're supposed to. You're going to come in and save them. So it's like you have a teenage son and you buy him a Lamborghini and he crashes the Lamborghini because he's driving like a fool. But then you buy him a new Porsche to replace the Lamborghini. Well, he hasn't learned a lesson. He knows that, okay, every time I crash my car, my dad's going to buy me a new car or whatever. So that's what it is. So let's see, would new tariffs be inflationary? Yeah, but there are a lot of market dynamics that apply there. It will probably lead to higher prices that consumers will pay for goods because the Chinese can't compete effectively because they'd be kind of handicapped from competing in the market, right? If you chop on 20% or add 20% onto the price of a commodity, then that commodity is going to cost more than say American-made goods or goods made in other countries that don't have tariffs. But at the same time, though, some argue that it would create American jobs. I believe that the reason that the economy has been growing like crazy, but workers have been suffering and the average American has been suffering, is because it's been deformed growth. It's been a type of growth that's really done a lot for the 10%, the 1%. It's done a lot for investors. That's why I've told you guys to become investors. All the millennials in here, please listen to me when I tell you, don't go through life without being an investor. I'm talking to really everybody, every age, but especially the young people. You don't want to go through life not investing. If you don't do that, then you're going to find yourself struggling your whole life. Anyway, let me see here. Would this put the tax rate higher for the United States and hurt the economy? I don't know what that means exactly. I'm sorry, I don't understand your question. Ryan James says, even Greenspan stated years ago that we can print as much money as we need, but we cannot secure his purchasing power. Oh yeah, well, you can always print more money, but the problem is that the more you print of that money, the less value it's going to have. It's like Zimbabwe tried that. when you get people who don't understand economics who are running the economy, then what happens is you end up wrecking the economy. like the same with Venezuela, a lot of countries. A lot of socialist ideas sound good in theory, but the problem with socialist ideas is that, most of my friends who are on the far left, they tend to not have a respect for what it takes to make an economy run. To make an economy run, you have to have a balance. You got to respect the rights of the workers and the people, but you've got to respect the rights of the business owners too, to give them incentives to create jobs for people. You got to open the market so they can, engage in free enterprise, be creative, take entrepreneurial risks, because without the risk of the entrepreneur, then there is no job for the person who doesn't want to be an entrepreneur, right? Like in the Black community, we talk about the need for Black-owned businesses. Well, I'll always hear people that'll say no Black people need jobs, or what about the people who just want to work and don't want to be entrepreneurs? And that's fine, but you can't have a Black community where everybody wants to be a worker. If everybody wants to be a worker, then that's like saying everybody wants to be a passenger in the car, but nobody wants to drive and nobody wants to build a car. Well, if that's the case, then that means you're going to have to go ride somebody else's bus. You got to go get, you got to go to other communities, the Jewish community, or the white community, the Asian community, the Arab community, and beg them to put you on their bus. And they're going to drive you where they want to drive you. And they're only going to drive if they feel like it. Not you. You'll have a bus pass, but you won't have control of the bus, and you won't own the bus. So what I'm saying with Black people is that we need somebody who owns the bus. We need somebody who knows how to drive the bus. And then, maybe you can have, for every one bus driver, you have 20 passengers, right? So for every one entrepreneur or one, person that knows how to run a business, you got 20 people who just want to be employees, and that's all good. But you can't have too much imbalance, or it's not going to be good. So long story short, and I'm not going to be on here forever. I just want to let you guys know, this is the talk of Wall Street right now. There is a concern. There are what are referred to on CNN Money as retaliation jitters. Financial markets have wobbled in recent weeks because of concerns of the escalating trade war between the world's two biggest economies. Jittery investors have poured money into bonds. So a lot of bond yields have dropped because bond prices have gone up, because there's been a lot of money being moved over to bonds. Trump has threatened to impose tariffs on all remaining U.S. imports from China, and Chinese state media has floated the potential for harsh retaliation, including restricting imports of rare earth minerals or even dumping Beijing's vast holdings of U.S. treasuries, which would be just, the thing about it is it's really a lot like, it's like a married couple where you're fighting with each other. And it's like, anybody ever see War of the Roses with Michael Douglas and Kathleen Turner? If you haven't seen it, it's a great movie. Go back and watch that movie. It's hilarious. It's mortifying. It's great acting. It's just a great movie. But in that movie, it's about a married couple that just gets into it, right? But they know each other extremely well, and they've been in love for all these years. They're intertwined. They're so connected that that if one of them hurts the other one, they end up hurting themselves. It's like if your heart and your kidneys decide to have a fight, then the whole body's going to die, right? So, so fighting a person that you're interconnected with is very different from fighting a stranger. So the same thing is true when you have two countries like the U.S. and China that have made economic love. And just like regular love, when you really love somebody, you can, has anybody ever felt this where you love somebody and hate them at the same time? Like, depending on what you think about, because the relationship is so intertwined and so complex that you literally are like, I can't stand you, but I need you. Like, we're connected. We're just addicted to each other, whether we like it or not. Right. It's and that's how love works. Well, the U.S. and China are in deep economic love. They've been having sex for years, and it's been good sex. Right. And but at the same time, there's been some emotional pain inflicted. There's been some treachery, some cheating, just people, constantly feeling like the other side's getting over on them. So what's happening now is they're fighting and they're talking about divorcing, but they really know that they would have a hard time living without each other. Right. So when the U.S. says, we're going to get you, I'm going to punish, you made me mad, I'm going to punish you. Well, what happens is they end up punishing themselves, because when you punish your partner, you're going to get retaliation. And every time you punish them and they retaliate, and then you retaliate to the retaliation, you're ultimately dropping the value of the relationship, because economic theory says that wealth and utility, meaning happiness, is increased the more you connect. So by loving each other, by coming together in the first place, you increased happiness, just like love and sex, right? You meet somebody that you're attracted to, they're attracted to you. You both are happy to have each other around, right? You're both better off than you were before. But when you start deteriorating the relationship, you're going back to where it was before you met each other, which is really, really bad. And then you start doing other things like seeing other people. Well, the U.S. and China are doing that with each other. Trump, anybody see last week on CNN, they made a big deal about Trump's state visit to the Japanese emperor, where for the first time, I think in a very long time, if ever, a U.S. sitting president was sitting with the Japanese emperor. I don't know if it's the first time ever or the first time in 40 years, or maybe since the Reagan administration, but it was a big deal. It was a very big deal. Well, it wasn't just a big deal because it was historic. It was a big deal because guess who hates each other? The Chinese and the Japanese. So by Trump going to date the Japanese, right? He's basically like, I'm going to go see other people and I'm going to date your worst enemy. So you're going to get pissed. So the Chinese probably sent, some strongly worded letter. We strongly object to the president's state visit to the Japanese, blah, blah, right? But they're like, oh, okay. I see you. I see you. Oh, well, Iran is having a party next week and we got invited. So we think we're going to go to Iran and all those precious metals we thought we told you we were going to export to you. We think we might sell them to Iran. We're gonna go give the good stuff to Iran, right? Like that's what you do in relationships, right? Like people are like, oh, okay, well, I'm gonna go and have sex with your best friend, right? So not your or either your best friend or your worst enemy, either one, right? Either right? You can hurt either way. So my point is that, and I know that I don't know if you guys like it or dislike it when I use real life examples to connect the two. But when you think about economics and finances, as long as I have, you start realizing that all it is formalized common sense. All it is everything that we've already lived, all the experiences we've already had that we naturally understand. It's just put in a book and the language has changed, but it's really the same thing. I mean, really just what you're seeing is a breakdown of a relationship. And ultimately what you really want is you want the couple to get back together. I want the United States and China to kiss and make up. Okay, you had your fight, because sometimes a good fight helps you to correct things. It helps you to deal with issues that you haven't dealt with. I date a therapist and she's always saying, a good fight is good every now and then, where we can get it out, let it out and argue a little bit. And then we come back together and we understand each other a little bit better. Has anybody ever had a good fight and maybe you have some good makeup sex, or maybe you kiss and make up and you feel better than you felt before? So sometimes there's a cleansing process that's necessary because there are issues that needed to be addressed. But you don't want a complete divorce, because it would be a complete economic disaster if the U.S. and China stopped doing business altogether, if they became mortal enemies. And the thing is that this is, to use a relationship analogy, sometimes when you're fighting over something that seems small, you're really fighting over something that's very, very big, something that's big underneath the surface, right? So you're fighting over the tip of the iceberg, but really you're fighting about the iceberg. Like my daddy used to always say, he said, couples fight over three things. Usually it's money, kids, or sex. He said, he said, a lot of times you think you're fighting about something else when really you're fighting over one of those three areas. Now, I don't know, my daddy wasn't no expert in nothing, but he's been married 45 years. So maybe that makes him an expert on something, right? On how to stay married, which most of us can't do anymore. But the same thing is true with the US and China. A lot of people feel that this trade war is really kind of scratching the surface of a deeper geopolitical issue, right? The long-term battle for global resources, the long-term fight over who's going to control the earth, who's going to have economic influence around the world, who's going to be able to get resources for their people. The United States is watching China. They're watching how the Chinese are going all throughout parts of Africa that the U.S. used to roam. The African countries are no longer making certain deals with the United States because they'd rather deal with China, because China doesn't give them a hard time about human rights issues and things like that. So the other thing too is that at the same time they're watching other aspects of Chinese development, like wait a minute, like, why do you need to build another aircraft carrier? Like, we all friends here? Like, why are you acting like you're trying to go to war? What, you don't need no nuclear missiles. What you need nuclear warheads for? What, you gonna shoot them off? Is that what you're saying, right? Well, the Chinese are like, well, you got nuclear warheads, so we're gonna build some too. We're gonna get an aircraft carrier, and so ultimately there's that big concern that this is just the beginning, that this could actually end up becoming something much bigger over time. And that's another reason why I think, for the sake of all of us, we want to see the U.S. and China find a way to resolve this. But I don't know. There are a lot of deep-seated issues there. The Chinese, last point I'll make on this is the Chinese are very, very good at practicing powernomics, the principles that I teach you guys when you guys are learning from me in the Black Business School. Powernomics is an idea that basically says we take care of ourselves first, we take care of our people first. If we're going to support a business, we support our own businesses first. When the Chinese make deals around the world, they don't hire your workers. They bring in their own workers. They don't teach you. They'll give you fish, but they won't teach you how to fish. So they'll go build a railroad for you, or they'll go build a power plant for you, but they're not going to teach you how to build it. They're not going to teach you how to maintain it. They're going to say, well, just call, if you need help, just call us. We got engineers. We got thousands of engineers. We can bring people over, but so they're very protective about what's theirs. And the interesting thing is that the United States is a little bit different. We tend to believe in an idea of sort of being a little more open and sharing, the open borders and stuff like that, and open economies. And the Chinese kind of, I think, deep down look at that as kind of ridiculous. Like, they're like, what's wrong with them? That's why America isn't going to be strong, because you don't take care of your own, right? So again, I don't know. It is what it is. That's what in fact, actually, even on the educational front, they laugh at the United States when it comes to education. I was in China and I saw Chinese school children, and I mean, they're just on point, wearing the same uniforms, all highly educated, all deep respect for teachers. When I taught a class in China, I taught a bunch of students finance in China years ago, and I've never got that level of respect in the front of a classroom that I got in China. Those young people respect their teachers, they respect their elders, their families are strong. They have a hierarchy and a process. They don't have a bunch of, they got their issues now, don't get me wrong, but there's a structure there that is built for strength and unity. We don't have that in America. We kind of have chaos. And so if I were you, I just take notes, pay attention, learn from everybody, because there's a lot to learn. And last point I'll make for sure on this is my niece, who's just born, as we're preparing her. She's going to be a millionaire by the age of 28. We've already done the math. We already have the plan in place. And one of the things that we're going to also have her do is she's going to learn 3 languages. She's going to learn English, she's going to learn Spanish, and she's going to learn Chinese. Those are the 3 languages we're going to have our niece learn, so that she's prepared for the future. So anyway, so that's my whole conversation about the market. And as I told you guys, I'm not just going to talk about what happened today. I always like to see the bigger picture. So anyway, I'm about to go. Don't forget, my book, Black American Money, just came out. So if you want to go take a look at the series, this is Black American Money 3. So if you want to go take a look at the whole series, you can go to blackAmericanMoney.com. That's blackAmericanMoney.com. And also, as summer comes and you want to get your kids financially literate, we have financial workbooks we created for Black children. And we have every grade band covered. We cover stocks. We cover investing as a general idea, as well as money, the fundamentals of money. And we also are gathering the band back together. We're going to create workbooks for entrepreneurship, real estate, and estate planning. Those are going to be the next 3 we're going to create over the next 2 years. So if you want to take a look at the workbooks, please visit financialworkbooks.com. That's financialworkbooks.com. So make sure you hit the thumbs up button. Make sure you subscribe. TheBlackFinancialChannel.com. It's great to see you guys. Hope you guys have a good day, and I hope you make tons of money. Let's go get it. See you guys soon. Take care. Bye-bye.